Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight for our Breast Cancer Now Facebook Live. I'm Cassie, I'm one of the clinical nurse specialists here at Breast Cancer Now, and I'm joined by my colleague Vic. Hi, Vic.
Hi.
Vic's also a clinical nurse specialist with us here at Breast Cancer Now, and tonight our topic is going to be psychological and emotional support for people affected by breast cancer. If you've got any questions you'd like to ask us on this topic, please do pop them in the comments below, same as always. Please do be aware that this is a public Facebook Live, so your comments will be visible to others. But please do type your questions below. We will answer as many as we can tonight as we go through the live. Anything we don't manage to answer tonight, we'll answer in the comments over the next few days, so please do check back for those.
Lovely. And thanks, Cassie. Now, we know that Breast Cancer Awareness Month is a really important time for raising awareness of breast cancer risk, the signs and symptoms, as well as the difficulties of living with and beyond a cancer diagnosis. And it's a really important event to help us raise funds so that we can keep supporting people and funding the vital research that we so urgently need. But we know, don't we, Cassie, that for those people going through a diagnosis and treatment, either now or in the past, we know it can feel quite overwhelming or bring back memories of a difficult time. So tonight, Cassie and I will be talking about ways to look after your mental well-being and highlighting where you can get support. And we're not trained therapists, are we, Cassie? But a large part of our role as a breast care nurse is providing emotional support. And we've got lots of signposts to share with you.
Absolutely. And, you know, if you've got questions or worries that you'd like to talk through in more detail or you don't feel comfortable posting tonight, our helpline team will be there again tomorrow from 9 a.m. So if you'd like to talk to one of us, you can always give us a call through our helpline. Now, we're open Monday to Friday from 9 till 4. We're there on Saturday from 9 till 1. And the number to give us a call on is 0808 800 6000. We've also got our Ask Our Nurse service, which is the written version of the helpline. So you can email us, you can send us private messages through Facebook and Instagram. So if you would like to get in touch just to talk things through in more detail, then please do get in touch. So while we're waiting for any questions that you have to come in, Vic, we wanted to highlight some resources, didn't we, for anybody who may be feeling particularly overwhelmed or in urgent need wanting to talk before our helpline's open.
Yeah, and there are some resources over there. One of the ones at Breast Cancer Now that we always suggest, if you're struggling or you just need that someone to talk to because life's feeling a bit hard right now, is the Samaritans. And that's a 24-hour number and it can be contacted on 116 123. So don't be alone. You know, do pick up the phone. If you feel you're really struggling, then do call the Samaritans. There's also, you can always text, let me just, sorry, I've just forgotten the link, Cassie, but it's Mind. Mind is the mental health charity, and again, so good for supporting your mental well-being. And if you wanted to text your worry or your concern, you can do that to the organisation Shout, and that's a free confidential 24/7 mental health text service, and you can find them on 85258. So please don't be alone. There are resources out there for you, and of course, as Cassie says, our helpline is open again at 9 o'clock. And we do say, Cassie, don't we, I don't know, that if you think of a question or something's on your mind and it's not urgent, but it might be something that you wake up and you think, oh, I've got a question, then you can call our helpline. We've got a voicemail facility, so leave us a message and one of the team will call you back in our opening hours. So we are here for you.
Perfect, that's amazing. Shall I go on and talk about sort of managing fear and worry, do you think? Should we go there next, Vic?
I think that's a good idea because it's out there, isn't it, Cassie?
Absolutely.
We hear a lot on the helpline that people are worried.
Absolutely, and stress and anxiety and worry it's so common after a cancer diagnosis, and it's completely natural to be feeling that way. And I think quite often we speak to a lot of people who will say that they feel like if they ask for support, if they admit that they're feeling like they're struggling, it can almost feel like you're admitting you're not coping, or that I should be coping better, I should be able to do this. And I quite often say to people, let's take that word out of your vocabulary. There is no should in this situation. You feel how you feel, and that's completely understandable. And any emotion during a difficult time like this is completely valid. And I think one of the first things we would always recommend is voicing it, is talking to somebody. And obviously, Vic, you mentioned our helpline, so people can always call and talk to us. But also you've got your nursing teams, so your breast care nurses, your treatment teams, if you're going through a cancer diagnosis or if you're in follow-up. They will always be there to listen and to signpost you to support as needed. So if you're not in treatment, you've also got your GPs that you can talk to, and they can signpost you towards support like counselling, psychological support services if you're feeling in need. Now, obviously, there are also friends and family that you can talk to. You know, it doesn't always have to be a professional if you just need a lift in that moment. But feeling able and open to talk about things can be a really helpful starting point. But I think a lot of people find if they are in an anxiety moment, actually you might not feel able to put your thoughts into words. And we do know that if you're struggling with anxiety, the brain becomes so busy, it can become quite overwhelming. And, you know, we spoke the other day, didn't we, Vic, about mindfulness and just how fantastic mindfulness can be for bringing you back into that moment. And there's a fantastic method that if you put into a Google search the term box breathing, you'll get lots of tutorials that come up. But that's a way to just try and quieten your mind down, to try and help cope with that anxiety in the moment. So the idea behind that is that you breathe in for 4, you hold it for 4, you breathe out for 4, and then you relax for 4 seconds. And then you do it again. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4, and then breathe out for 4, and then relax. And as Vic said, we're not therapists, so I can't describe to you how that physically works in the brain. But the idea is that it forces you to slow down, calms the thoughts, and brings that kind of rational thinking back. So that's just a small tip around managing anxiety just in the moment. And Vic, I don't know if you'd agree, we talk to people a lot about distraction. So we speak to a lot of people who are waiting for results, scan results, test results, surgery results. And you know that you're not going to get to that result appointment. You're being seen in X amount of days' time. And you've got to get from where you are now to that result, knowing nothing's going to speed it up, nothing's going to change it. But actually every day that worry is playing on your mind. And, you know, finding things to distract yourself, doing the things that you really enjoy, maybe calling up somebody and saying, can you meet me for a coffee just to talk about something completely different, watching a movie, listening to some music that you love, anything that helps just give your mind a little bit of relief from that worry can be really helpful. And then the final thing that I was going to mention is exercise, so that we know exercise has lots of benefits for mental health well-being as well as the physical benefits. And actually just getting outside into the fresh air itself has benefits. So, you know, if you're feeling worried, if you're stressed and anxious, getting some movement in, some gentle movement, some exercise can be really, really helpful. And that is a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but there is more information on our website around managing stress and anxiety and worry. There's more information on the NHS website as well. They've got links to mindfulness apps. But absolutely do reach out to your GP, your treatment teams, or just somebody to talk to. And obviously Vic has given us some fantastic resources for that as well.
And Cassie, you know, when we talk about anxiety, I guess the aim, anxiety exists, doesn't it, Cassie? It's real. And there's nothing worse than someone, oh, don't worry, don't worry. No, I am worried.
Yeah.
But it's about you being in control of the anxiety
Absolutely.
rather than the anxiety or worry, however you want to name it, being in control of you. And I know when we've
Absolutely.
done some other of our lives before, one of the techniques was, it's called worry time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I've spoken to have actually found this helpful. So if you imagine you have an allocated worry time, maybe it might be 8 o'clock in the morning, it might be 8 o'clock at night. And so in that worry time, it might be half an hour, it might be an hour, but you can let rip on the worries. The worries really come, you can hear them and you can... So then if it's 10 o'clock in the morning when worry time has finished, so the worries are still there, they haven't gone away, but what you might want to say is, look, it's not worry time right now, I'll address you at 8 o'clock tonight. And a lot of people have found that really useful because you're not dissing your worries, you're acknowledging them, but you're a little bit more in control of them. So that might be a tip too.
Absolutely, that is a fantastic one, Vic. And it's about finding the things for each individual that works for them. There's so many sort of hints and tips out there, aren't there? And things will work for one person, not for another. And as you say, with anxiety, quite often it's just getting to yourself to that place where you feel in control enough to then be able to go, actually, I'm either feeling okay now or I need to go and get some support. And obviously, as you said at the beginning, Vic, you know, this particular month for people with breast cancer in their lives in sort of any way, it can increase some anxiety for some people because, you know, everywhere you look there is breast awareness, and we know that is so important to make sure people are aware of breast checking and screening. But for anybody who may be sort of newly diagnosed or feeling overwhelmed, what would you say to them?
You know, the first thing I'd say, Cassie, is we're here for you, and we get it. We absolutely get it, and it can be overwhelming, can't it? It's often we hear, don't we, Cassie, that when you've had a diagnosis of breast cancer, or maybe you're waiting for a diagnosis of breast cancer, every time you turn on the television, you look on billboards, you look at social media, it's all breast cancer, and it can feel overwhelming, especially in the month of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, BCAM, in October. So it can feel that. But our helpline is here. If you feel overwhelmed, as Cassie said, do ring us, because sometimes just talking about it can just lessen that load. And you know, it's okay not to look at social media. And I think our colleagues Sally and Jane spoke this week about a digital detox and just actually staying away from it.
Yeah.
And we heard on the helpline many times that people will say, I've looked on Google, I know I shouldn't, but I have. And we do say, try to avoid, if you can, a Googling, because it's not always helpful. And maybe what is more helpful is looking at sites, you know, respected sites that you know are policed and regulated, such as Breast Cancer Now, such as Macmillan and Maggie's, and they're just reliable sources of information, because we know on the internet that anyone can write anything, and often people have a way of telling things how their experience was that may not always be favourable. But conversely, you don't hear so much the positive stories that can help us so much. And another thing you might find helpful is to actually write your questions down, write your worries down, because often by writing them down, you can then vocalise them better. So if you were to call our helpline or your breast care nurse or another source of support, it's actually really clear what's going on, and we can help you. And as Cassie said, we have our helpline, and we've also got another service called Someone Like Me. So that's a peer support service that, I like the phrase, it buddies you up with someone who's been in a similar situation. It's the most phenomenal service, and the feedback that we hear from that is just so incredible, because maybe no one really understands as if someone that's been through it. So if you do feel overwhelmed by the pinkness this month, we're here for you.
That's fantastic, and I think that'd be really helpful, Vic, for anybody watching who's in that moment right now.
Definitely. And Cassie, we know, don't we, people who are watching may be living with secondary or metastatic breast cancer, and maybe you can talk through specific support for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of what you've just shared, Vic, is relevant for whatever stage people are at, whether they have primary or secondary breast cancer, worried about their risk of breast cancer, whether they're supporting somebody. You know, as you say, you know, feeling okay to talk about it and sort of seeking support where needed. I think that applies to everybody. And you mentioned the Someone Like Me service, and we know that's a service for people with primary breast cancer, but we do have our Living with Secondary Breast Cancer groups. So there are face-to-face services, online services, there are presentations from healthcare professionals. So that Living with secondary breast cancer services are great for just connecting with others going through the similar situation, same as you was sort of saying with Someone Like Me, just being able to talk to somebody else who's going through the same and understands how you're feeling. But also having those sessions from health professionals who can talk through things like managing the emotional worries, managing the practical or the physical concerns that come with living with a secondary diagnosis. And I think although sort of uncertainty and worry, it comes with all aspects of cancer. When you're living with a secondary breast cancer, actually that uncertainty and how to manage that can become a real pertinent issue, because there is a lot of uncertainty when you're living with a long-term condition in that way. And I just wanted to highlight that we have 2 Facebook Lives that have been done previously that are available through our YouTube channel that actually address those issues. So we have one session that's on managing uncertainty and another session that's on managing worrying thoughts. Both of those are available over on the Breast Cancer Now YouTube channel, and they both talk around kind of self-help tips, but also support that you can get for just managing that uncertainty that you might be feeling in the day-to-day, so that actually you can acknowledge it, but it doesn't impact on your quality of life to the point where you're not able to sort of enjoy your day-to-day. So those would be 2 other ways to get some information and some tips on that. But would highly recommend anybody watching who may have a secondary breast cancer diagnosis to have a look at our Living With group and services, because again, the feedback we get from people who attend the sessions are overwhelmingly positive. I believe there's one of the face-to-face sessions happening tomorrow and Saturday up in Leeds, and we have them all around the country, and it's a great place for people to connect and get that peer support that can mean so much to people, just having somebody, as you say, that's there and understands.
Yeah, and it's sorry, Cassie, I was just going to say the event in Leeds with the is for younger women with breast cancer.
Yes.
And so we know that the majority of breast cancers occur in women who are 50 and older, but we know that younger women do get breast
Absolutely.
cancer too.
And actually, Vic, we were going to chat a little bit about sort of, there are obviously, cancer is a very individual journey for everybody, but there are certain groups that we know need different kinds of support. And you were going to talk a little bit about younger women, so that might be a great place to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And anyone who has a diagnosis of cancer has needs. Those needs may be similar, they may be different, but we know that younger women maybe have some different needs that are different from older women. That may be supporting children, relationships, fertility, all those sorts of things. And at Breast Cancer Now, we have tailored support specifically for younger women. So that's women who are 45 and under. So, as you said, very timely. Our Younger Women with Secondaries residential event is happening tomorrow and Saturday in Leeds. And in October, we have a one-day event for people, younger women with primary breast cancer in London. And it's an amazing way for younger women to connect. I think one of the most powerful things about the event is actually younger women coming together. They often explain how being in treatment areas with women a lot older than them can feel a little bit isolating. So for younger women, coming together is really important. And as well as the face-to-face events, we have our Younger Women Together online programme. We're in the middle of a programme right now, but there's another one starting in the new year. So there's lots of tailored support for younger women that we put together.
Absolutely, that's absolutely amazing, Vic. And as you say, you mentioned earlier, you know, with Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it can feel very, very pink, and that can also be isolating for some people who may not identify with that colour. And that kind of leads me into thinking about sort of minority groups that also may well need to seek out for support. And there are lots of kind of tailored services out there for different groups, but it's knowing how to find them and how to access them. And I think, you know, obviously there's the outpatients group for the LGBTQ plus community, because again, there may be differing support needs, and that need to talk to others that are going through a similar situation. And so that's another really great resource that people can access just for a little bit of that tailored support. And I wonder, Vic, are there any sort of other groups that you would think about that may, well, actually there might be something very specific they may be looking for that we can help direct them
Yeah,
to?
Cassie, it's really good to talk about it, isn't it? And we know that men do get breast cancer as well. And like you say, Cassie, we often associate pink with women, don't we? But we know that men do get breast cancer as well. And there's quite an amazing, it's a virtual organisation called Men's Mental Health, which is Men's VMU, and that's a great support for men that are diagnosed with breast cancer that you can find useful as well. And we know, Cassie, different treatment options are available to people with breast cancer. So it's very tailored, isn't it, now, the treatment for breast cancer. But we know that some people have to have the choice or have to decide or are suggested to have a mastectomy with or without reconstruction. So the organisation Flap Friends and Keeping Abreast can help support in decision making and just in the change in body image as well.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really good point, Vic, because the body image changes that come after surgery, that can have quite a significant impact for people going through a cancer diagnosis, and recovery period can be really, really difficult. And we know that obviously there's a lot of support. People are seeing their treatment teams a lot during their treatment, and we speak to a lot of people through our helpline where they've come towards the end of their treatment. They've had their surgery, they've had their systemic therapies, and they're feeling a little bit lost once they head into that follow-up period. So that's where things like our Moving Forward service came about, because we were hearing so much from people saying, actually, I feel really well supported as I'm going through treatment, and now I've finished treatment and I'm feeling a little bit lost. And I quite often say to people, it's only once you're in that recovery process that sometimes your mind has the space to be able to look back and go, gosh, what have I just been through? That was a lot. And you start to be able to process those emotions. So I find, I don't know if you find the same, Vic, that actually when we're talking to people, they tend to come to a lot of these support services maybe after treatment to think, well, actually now I need to start trying to process everything that I've been through.
And that's often at a time, Cassie, isn't it, where friends, family, maybe even yourself are thinking, right, active treatment's over, or back to normal. And it's like, what is that normal? I'm not sure what that normal is anymore. But I think often we hear, don't we, Cassie, that people are like, yeah, but I'm not worthy of your support now because I've done my treatment, and you should be focusing on people going through treatment. Well, categorically, you are worthy. You truly are worthy of that support. And actually acknowledging that things can be hard, maybe even harder when treatment finishes, is a good thing to recognise. You're not going mad, and like I say, the Moving Forward, Cassie, that you mentioned is just a brilliant tool for that.
Absolutely. And I think you've highlighted a really key point there as well, that actually people might be sitting at home with these worries, with these concerns, and thinking, I can't reach out to my treatment team because I'm not in active treatment, I'm on follow-up. But actually, your breast care nurses are there for you all through your follow-up, and actually they would rather you call them and chat through those questions rather than knowing you're sitting at home worrying about something. So if you have questions, if you have concerns, do reach out to your treatment teams, normally through your breast care nurses in most places, and they will be able to support and help you with that. And I guess the other thing that we didn't mention earlier, Vic, that's just come to mind is obviously if people are struggling with low mood or anxiety or worry, that can actually sometimes be a side effect from treatments for cancer. So actually, again, reaching out and talking to your teams, I think, is really important, because they may well be able to say, particularly what comes to mind is the hormone therapy. So we know tamoxifen can cause some low mood for people as a side effect from the treatment. And somebody may well be sitting at home and sort of just thinking, I need to push through this, but actually reach out to your teams and talk to them.
Because there are options out there, Cassie.
Absolutely.
There are, but no one will know how to help and support you if they don't know about it. And that's often where our helpline is so useful, because we often hear it, I don't want to be a nuisance, I don't want to bother my team, they are busy. And they are busy, we can't deny that, but our friends and our colleagues, what we have it at breast cancer now that they don't have so much of is time. So do call us on the helpline, talk it through, and then we can talk through what's best for you at that time, but never feel that you're a nuisance or a burden on anyone, because you're
Absolutely.
not.
And quite often there are for referrals that your teams can make to help. So they can refer, as we mentioned before, for counselling services. Things like CBT can be really helpful. But also if there's physical issues, so things like physiotherapy, dietitians, if there's problems with eating. The other thing we haven't mentioned is sleep disturbance, Vic. So people sort of struggling with the emotional well-being during a cancer diagnosis, or in general, quite often that can affect your sleep. And if you're not sleeping well, that can have a real effect on your mood, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And they say, don't they, sleep is used as a form of torture.
Yeah,
So actually, how important is sleep? But what's the reason for your lack of sleep?
Absolutely.
Is it the medication that you're on? Is it, worry and anxiety? So we are here to help you through that. And Cassie, I just want to share with you, Tracy's just put a question in. She said she feels lost now. She's finished her active treatment. So she says, thank you for the reassurance. But Tracy, I'm so glad that you've joined us tonight. I hope by joining us, you're not feeling so alone, and that some of the resources that we've spoken about, you'll be able to access, Tracy. But the helpline is open at 9 in the morning, Tracy, so do give them a call.
Absolutely. And I would also say have a look at the moving forward resources, because
Definitely,
you'd be
definitely.
able to sort of meet with other people who are also feeling the same way.
Yeah.
And as you
And
say, sometimes just that reassurance of knowing someone else is out there.
it's like a weight, isn't it? That, oh, I'm not going mad. It's not just me. It's really huge. And Cassie, we've had a question in from Susie, and Susie says good evening. So good evening to you,
Hi,
Susie.
Susie.
She's just at the start of her treatment. It's lovely to know there is support once my treatment finishes, and Susie, there absolutely is. So Susie's had a lumpectomy surgery and node biopsy. Just at the moment, she's waiting her oncotype result to know your treatment plan.
Yeah.
So
And I
that can
think
be an
that's like we were
anxious time,
saying
can't it? And
earlier,
you
wasn't it?
thought that,
Yeah.
didn't you? Waiting for those results.
Absolutely. That waiting for results. We speak to so many people on the helpline who find that waiting time really difficult, because it is that uncertainty of waiting to know. And your mind may well be going through all the different possibilities of what the treatment plan might be, what might be there, what not be there. So again, if you have an appointment booked for that result, it's how do I get from where I am now to the day of that appointment. And if you're struggling, or if there's sort of uncertainty around that appointment, you can always again reach out to your breast care nurse and just say, I am waiting for this result, I'm feeling anxious, and they will be able to support you. Is there anything else you'd recommend as well, Vic?
No, it's just hard, isn't it? And that waiting is sometimes the fear of the unknown, but it's worrying thoughts are not real. They are worrying thoughts. It's not a fact. Thoughts are not facts. So sometimes actually coming back to the actual moment. So, Susie, you've had your surgery. So your breast cancer has been removed. So it's about how best to move, what treatment to have to prevent that breast cancer from coming back. But at that moment, what is that breast cancer has been removed. So hopefully that might help you.
And I think the other thing for you, Susie, is obviously you say it's great to know there's support once your treatment finishes. There is support as you're going through treatment as well. So we have our online forums where you can talk to other people who are going through treatment, ask questions. We have our speakers live sessions that we've not mentioned, which is almost like webinar style sessions on different topics, and the details of all the topics are on the website. If you go to the Breast Cancer Now website and put in speakers lives, then you'll get a list that comes up of all the different topics that we're covering. So depending on sort of what treatments you're having, what your concerns are, you can log into those, hear presentations from clinical experts out there in practice, but it's also an opportunity to ask them questions as well. So yes, there's loads of support once you finish treatment, but there is also support as you go through treatment as well, both with Breast Cancer Now and obviously with other organisations as well. So talk to your breast care nurse about what's available locally. There may well be support groups, you may well have a local Maggie's centre, places where you connect and places where you can ask questions.
Definitely, definitely. And depending on how old you are and your family dynamics, you may have children, and a lot of people actually worry about how to support their children through their diagnosis. And the wonderful organisation Fruit Fly Collective has got a huge amount of resources in supporting you for that. So do be aware of that. And they've also recently launched their Parenting with Cancer coaching programme. So again, more support for our younger women out there.
Yeah, that's a really good resource for people to look
Oh,
at.
it's really good, yeah.
And Vic, we've just had another question come in. So Karen has said, if you're HER2 positive, does that mean you're always going to have chemotherapy? I'm waiting to know if I'm HER2 positive. Really good
Okay.
question, Karen.
It is, Karen. Thank you for asking that. It's another wait, though, Karen, isn't it? You're waiting to hear if you're HER2 positive. So we know that HER2 positive breast cancers, they have, so HER2 is a protein that's found on the surface of breast cancer cells. And in HER2 positive breast cancer, there's more of that HER2 protein. But the good thing about that, if you can call it a good thing, is that there's targeted treatments for HER2 positive breast cancers. But Karen, they are given alongside chemotherapy.
Yeah.
So, in answer to your question, if your results come back that it's HER2 positive, yes, you would. I would anticipate that you would have chemotherapy alongside those targeted treatments. But it's an example, Karen, of the targeted treatment that's now available in practice. So.
Absolutely, and it can feel like a really long wait waiting for that result to know kind of what the treatment's going to be.
Yeah.
And again, I would say, if you're waiting and you're worried, reach out to your breast care nurse and chat to them about it. But obviously we're also here. And once you do get that result and they talk to you about what treatment options are, if you're feeling overwhelmed, as Vic mentioned earlier, with sort of the decisions and understanding the treatments, we've got loads of information on our website about the different treatments for breast cancers, and also you'd be able to give us a call to talk through it in more detail.
Yeah, and I think, Cassie, when it comes to treatment, it's a good thing to talk about, isn't it? Because some people might worry if they don't have chemotherapy. So we know, I was remembering your name, Susie. Sorry, Susie, I forgot your name there for a moment. Susie, if your oncotype score comes back lower, then it may be recommended that you don't need chemotherapy. And I know some people can think, yeah, but do I need it? Do I, am I being undertreated? And there's a lot of research now going on, isn't there, in the breast cancer community, actually about tailored treatment. And actually, historically, were we over-treating people, giving people chemotherapy, where actually what they've realised now with the research that's gone on is that actually the benefit of that chemotherapy is not really significant, yet you've been exposed to all the potential side effects. So, if you're worried that you're not having a treatment, again, do talk to your treatment team or call us on the helpline. And we obviously won't have access to your individual clinical notes, but we can give you some guidance about, why that treatment plan may have been offered for you. But it's really important that you ask that question if you're worried that you're not having a treatment.
Absolutely, because as you say, information is power. Understanding why those decisions have been made and why they're the right decision for you in your case compared to somebody else's is really, really important, because that treatment pathway can be so different for everybody.
Absolutely.
Particularly,
Yeah.
as well, obviously, we've got lots more happening in the world of sort of genetics and genomics, and that can actually tailor treatments even further. So, yeah, I think going forward, there's going to be even more sort of variety, even more personalisation, which is a good thing, but it also means there's far more for people to have to understand. And so, yeah, making sure that you ask those questions, because no doctor's going to mind talking through actually, well, what's the reason for this? I need to understand it's your body, and it's really important that you understand what's been offered and why. So, yeah, do ask those questions.
I don't know about you, Cassie, but when I was in clinical practice, what I really liked is if a patient came to clinic and the doctor or the healthcare professional doing that consultation would say, have you got any questions? And then they'd bring out a list of questions, and you think, fantastic, because you can be really focused, can't you, on that? So
Absolutely.
it's a good thing to have questions. It really is.
And I think this is another thing we say to people when we chat to them on the helpline, is those consultations with your health professionals, they can be quite overwhelming. It can be a lot of information. And sometimes you can kind of get swept along with the conversation and leave thinking, I haven't actually asked all of my questions, or there were things that I wanted to chat about and I didn't get the chance to because there's just so much information coming at you. So writing down your questions so that you can say, actually, can I just check I've asked everything I need to know as well? Always advocate for that. And for people, you know, if you have somebody you can take with you to your appointments, it's always helpful to have a second pair of ears, because you'll find you remember different parts of the conversation. So I know not everybody has that kind of support, but if you have somebody at home that you can take to your appointments with you, we would always recommend, you know, having them for the support for you, but also for being able to help take in that information.
Definitely. I don't know about you, Cassie, but if I ever have a hospital appointment, as soon as I go out the double doors, I seem to forget
Yeah,
everything that
absolutely.
was said. So,
And
yeah.
particularly at a new diagnosis appointment, because it's so shocking to hear that actually a lot of people will say to us, well, as soon as I heard the word cancer, I didn't hear anything else, because you're still trying to process that. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Writing
And
things down, taking someone with you.
it
And I
is a
think,
big
Vic,
thing.
that's just given me another question that I think I'm going to put to you, if you don't mind, an off-the-cuff question. We're talking about taking people with you for support. What about people supporting somebody with a cancer diagnosis? Because quite often, you know, we speak to friends and family.
Yeah, and that can be overwhelming as well. And I know when we do our Younger Women Together events, um, we have a session on relationships and communication, and excuse me for relating it to younger women, but they will often say, oh, my husband, my partner is mollycoddling me, they're overprotective of me, or they're just conversely, oh, come on, it's not that bad, someone else was better. And it can make relationships quite
Yeah,
friable, can't it? And it can be really overwhelming if you're that person supporting someone trying to do what's best. So we have got, when your partner has breast cancer, we have a booklet that can help with that. And also our Someone Like Me service offers a
yeah,
buddying system to partners or mums or dads
yeah,
or anyone like that. Our helpline as well, if you're finding it difficult, sometimes people think, I just don't know what to say, I'm saying the wrong thing, I'm worried about saying the wrong thing. That can be a parent, a partner, anything. So you can call us on the helpline, and you can sometimes just offload to us. And I
yeah.
think that can be really valuable, can't it, Cassie? Just being able to
Absolutely.
say it how it is without having to worry anybody, or you know, worried about saying the wrong
Yeah.
thing. So I think it's a really good point that you said, Cassie. And you know, the anxiety of waiting for results that we've seen with some of our people tonight, it's really significant. So yeah, we are here for everybody.
Absolutely. And just to add to that as well, you know, somebody's supporting somebody with secondary breast cancer. We've got lots of information on our website of where you can reach out for support for yourself and ways in which you can support that person that's going through the diagnosis. So we quite often speak to people that say, I just don't know what I can do, how can I help? And we've got information for that, but we've got that really important information for looking after your own well-being. So they always say you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're supporting somebody, you have to be supported yourself as well. So just making sure that if there are friends, family, loved one listening in as well, knowing that there is actually support available for you as well. And as we say, there's information on the website, but you can also go chat to your GP if you are struggling emotionally and finding that carer role really, really difficult. Go and chat to your GP about what support they may be able to offer as well.
And there is amazing support, isn't there, from Maggie's. So if you're not
Yeah,
familiar with Maggie's, it's very much the concept of a kitchen table, being talking around the kitchen table. It's relaxed, it's informal, but so many amazing resources, not just for people with a cancer diagnosis, but also for their loved ones and carers too.
absolutely. And I think we've chatted through sort of quite a lot of different areas. We've put in lots of different resources. So we'll try and link some of those below if we can over the next few days, just so that you've got the links to go and find those other resources as well. I've just seen a couple more questions come in just as I was about to close this off, but we will,
Oh
if
yeah,
you've got a few minutes, Vic, go
of
through these
course,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So I hope I'm pronouncing this right. We've got a Katie who says she's having a PET scan due to progression with her spine mets after being stable on her first line treatment for 5 years. Are there any specific places to find positive stories about people in a similar situation? And I don't know about you, Vic, my mind goes to organisations like Make Seconds Count.
Absolutely, yeah. And Katie, well, haven't you done well? 5 years of stable disease. That's just fantastic. And um, it's always hard, isn't it, when you have those scans? And what is that scan going to bring? Um, and it sounds as though you've got slight progression in your spine, but you know, you've done so well, and there will be treatment options available for you as well. But Make Seconds Count is a brilliant organisation, isn't it? And so supportive, and so much positivity within that community.
And hopefully you also have a specialist nurse that you can talk to. So it sounds like they will be talking to you about sort of next line treatment. So what would the next treatment be that you can use? There may well be options. So they may well be talking to you about different treatments and saying which one they think would be recommended for you. And again, that can be quite overwhelming. Think, well, what is my next treatment going to be? So do use your specialist nurse if you have a secondary breast cancer nurse, or if not, the breast care nurses, because they will be able to support you through that process.
Yeah.
And the services that I mentioned earlier, the living with secondary breast cancer groups, as we said, that's a way to connect with other people who are going through all these same kind of uncertainties. So that's another place where you can connect with people going through similar, and so it'll be another resource that I would say have a look at.
Definitely. And Katie, the other thing to think about is to ask your oncology team if there's any clinical trials. So it's all, they're up and coming all the time, aren't they, Cassie? But do always ask about those too.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, it's quite difficult with forums because quite often, as Vic said earlier, you do hear a lot of the negative stories and not so many of the positive stories. But I think through that groups where you're talking to people face to face, you do tend to hear a lot more of the positive stories, and they are out there.
Yeah.
So definitely, and I would say, Kate, if you want to talk things through in sort of more detail on a more individual basis, do give us a call on the helpline, and we'll be able to give a bit more sort of individual chat for you.
Definitely. And Cassie, we've had a question in from Raymond who says, hello, so hello to you. Is it better to be on 5 years or 10 years of tamoxifen?
Really interesting question, and I would say the very unsatisfactory answer is it depends. So it depends on your individual situation. So we know that some people will have their hormone therapies for 5 years, but there is some evidence that for certain people with possibly a slightly higher risk of the cancer returning in the future, extending that to 7 or 10 years may be of benefit. We know the most benefit from hormone therapy is in those first few years, and these extra years give a little bit of added benefit on top, but only for some people. So the answer to that question would be it would depend on your individual situation, and the best people to answer that, if you would like to know for your circumstances, would be your breast care nurse or your treatment team. Vic, is there anything you would add to that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things, Cassie, is that we spoke earlier about over treatment, and actually sometimes with hormone therapy the benefit post 5 years, so taking it longer than 5 years for some people, it's not significant. But also with most hormone therapies, you have what we call the carryover effect.
Yeah.
So even though you may stop your treatment, physically stop taking it, the effects of it carry on for quite some time. So Cassie, it's like you say, it's really important, isn't it, to understand, well, why might it be recommended for me for 5 years? Why 7 or 10 years? So that you can understand that decision. So
absolutely. And obviously side effects play a part in that as well.
absolutely.
So if somebody is struggling to tolerate that treatment, it's having a real impact on their quality of life. That may well also factor into the decision. So lots and lots of different sort of elements to think about.
Yeah.
Lovely. I think that's all the questions that we've had in at the moment. Vic, before we go to sort of closing things off, is there anything else that we've not covered that you feel like you'd like to mention?
Oh, I think we've gone through quite a lot, haven't we, really?
I think we've kind of whistled through lots and lots of
It's been
different
a whistle
situations.
stop. It
So
has been a whistle
hopefully it's
stop
been
tour, but
helpful.
I hope so too. I hope so, and I hope what people feel is that they're not alone in breast, particularly in Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I hope people know that we are here for them, and the range of resources that are out there to support you. You're not going mad if you need some support. You're truly
Absolutely.
not, and we're here for you. And there's so much out there that we can do to support you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Vic. So I think that's covered everything for tonight. So I think we will sign off here. Like we said, if you've got questions or concerns that you haven't felt comfortable to ask or that come to you after the session closes, you can call our helpline, which is open again tomorrow from 9, or you can use our Ask Our Nurse service. And I know our producer Kev will put the links below so that you'll be able to access those.
So yeah, the resources that we've mentioned, if you need anyone to speak to imminently, the Samaritans, but do reach out. And thank you everyone for watching tonight.
Lovely, thank you. And thank you, Vic, for joining me tonight as well.
Thanks, Cassie.